Okay, this is a reaction video from List 25, 25 funny differences between Canadians and Americans. Now, I didn't know there were 25 differences. I didn't know there were funny differences. I've been up to Canada before. I found it very, very pleasant. I enjoyed my time up there, and thought the people were very friendly. But let's see what the 25 funny differences between Canadians and Americans are.
Canada and the U.S. have somewhat of a love-hate relationship.
I wasn't aware of that. I don't hate anybody from Canada, but maybe he's talking about something else. Let's see.
It's a sibling rivalry that goes back centuries. So, what exactly are the differences between the two? Today, we're going to take a look at how the longest unprotected border in the world has defined North America. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 funny differences between Canadians and Americans. Canadians tend to trust authority, whereas Americans are suspicious of it.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I know a lot of people who tend to. Well, I guess if you're talking about the population as a whole, I guess we don't trust authority too much, but I do. I grew up in a military household, so I kind of tend to. And my uncle was in the Navy for 26 years. My dad was in the Navy for 20 years. Okay, but I guess as Americans as a whole, maybe we don't trust authority as much too often. But let me see what he says.
This goes back to the fact that the Canadians remained loyal to the crown, while America showed King George the door.
Yeah, okay, that's what he's talking about. Yeah, the Revolutionary War. Okay.
24. Canadians bond over hockey. Americans bond over football. In general, Canadians also put less emphasis on sports. 20.
Yeah, I suppose, but in recent years I've seen Canadians take sports a little bit more serious and actually like getting one over on the. An example is the World Cup qualifiers for the U.S. versus Canada. Canada beat the United States 2-0 up in Canada and finishing for the first time finishing first place in the CONCACAF. Well, I guess this was an octagonal, eight teams. And I thought that was that from the United States perspective, we were just happy to get to the World Cup. And we've won the when it was called the Hex when there were 6 teams before. It doesn't do anything for you. Yeah, it gets you to the World Cup, but it's not like you get any special prize. Like you got seeded or anything like that. We didn't get seeded the last time we did it, and Canada didn't get seeded this time. This went by FIFA rankings is where you were, and but look, I think Canada has taken a little bit more interest in sports. Maybe not as serious as Americans are, but certainly started to take it a little more seriously.
3. Canadians spend a lot of time comparing themselves to the U.S. Americans don't think about Canada very often at all.
I've seen situations where people think the people in Canada live in igloos and things like that. And as someone who's, like I said, I've been up to Canada before, they don't. And if they compare themselves to us, they, at least in recent memory, you find somebody else. Find another country. Compare yourself to yourselves.
Actually, almost never. I love you, Ken. And all my Canadian friends. This is in jest, dear God.
Okay.
22. Some parts of Canada sell milk in bags. Bagged milk would be highly suspicious in the U.S.
That's true. I don't know if I've ever bought bagged milk before. This is the first time I think I've ever heard of bagged milk.
I'd totally drink it. Milk's great. Best beverage. No, absolutely.
No, milk is fantastic.
Milk is the best beverage in the world.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And it comes in chocolate.
Yeah. I actually don't like chocolate as
I actually have chocolate milk in my refrigerator right now as we speak.
much.
That's weird.
I prefer white. I can do it. I prefer
White 2% milk is the best.
21. The U.S. sees itself as a melting pot. That was a good restaurant. While Canada sees itself as a mosaic. The difference is very slight, but basically in the U.S., there's more mixing and blending between immigrant cultures, while in Canada, immigrants tend to keep more of their language and traditions rather than mix with others. 20.
Again, that's something I didn't know.
Canadians have more of a tall poppy syndrome, which is a tendency to distrust or discredit anyone who stands out in a prominent position or wealth. In this sense, Canada is a lot more like Europe. Conformity is more encouraged in Canada than in the US. If America does well at anything, it's encouraging innovation and non-conformity.
Yeah, Americans like individuality. We certainly do that, and so I guess I can understand that.
19. Canadians love their flag.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked the Canadian flag. I always like the American flag. I don't think I've seen a flag that I do not like. I know was going to say that the Americans don't like their flag, but I like the Canadian flag a lot.
But Americans seem to love their flag more. Seriously.
Yeah, okay, I agree. Okay. I didn't know where he was going with that one, but yeah, Americans do love their flag.
Nobody beats America at flags. You can't beat Canadians at maple syrup, though.
Well, I don't know. I've got a friend who up in Ohio who makes family makes maple syrup. It's pretty darn good, better than any maple syrup I've ever tasted from anywhere. But
18. Canadians put more emphasis on higher education. Actually, Canada puts more emphasis on it than any other country in the world.
Well, there's in Canada it may be called higher education. In America, it's called indoctrination into. Well, I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, okay.
It leads the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, with 53% of the population having a college education. The OECD average is 32%. 17. Canadians generally approve of their government. Americans hate and distrust theirs.
Well, I think it really depends. I mean, especially in recent years. Look, when I was growing up, when Reagan was president, you may not have liked him, but you certainly respected him, and you certainly could see where he's coming from. Nowadays, it doesn't matter who's president. If he's from a party that you're not a part of, you tend to hate him and point out every little nook and cranny that he does wrong. Like if like if Joe Biden, who's the president right now, doesn't do something you approve of, you take it to the nth degree. Now, right now, I've seen problems up in Canada with Justin Trudeau because he doesn't come across as a very popular individual. I could be wrong on that. Okay, I could be completely wrong on that. I saw what was happening on the border with the trucks a couple years ago, but Canadian friends let me know. But United States Americans tend to not trust anybody who is not from their party that's in control nowadays, and it's gotten a lot worse because it certainly wasn't as bad when I was growing up.
This boils down to the fact that the Canadians see government as a good thing, while Americans see it as a necessary evil. 16. Americans are more individualistic. This goes back to the...
Again, that's something I said before. Yeah, we are very individualistic. There's no question about that.
Wild West mentality. The very word Canada, on the other hand, is derived from a local Iroquoian word for village. Canadians are more communally minded. 15. Canada's right wing is America's left wing. In the political sense, Canadian politics tend to be more liberal. This doesn't mean that Canada doesn't have conservative politics. It certainly does. The political system is a lot less polarized, however, and doesn't pull to the extremes as much. It has...
Well, right now, when you're talking about right wing versus left wing in the United States nowadays, or Republican versus Democrat, Republican, in my eyes, vision has been very consistent on what they want and what they're trying to do. The left in the United States has consistently kept moving to the left to the point that where you have people who've been traditionally considered left-wing guys like Bill Maher on HBO. When he speaks, he sounds a little bit more conservative now than he does liberal, or certainly more than he does with what the current administration is pushing. And so, take it for what it is.
5 primary political parties. 14. Both Americans and Canadians think they're more free. In Canada, this is due to more progressive policies. In the US, it's due to lack of government policies.
I don't know how you could feel more free with progressive policies, but again, that's an opinion of mine. I don't live up in Canada. I don't know how things are done up there. Again, when I was up there, I found the people be very friendly and uh, very nice and very welcoming. But again, I without having lived up there, I can't really speak to that.
13. Americans are more confrontational. Not necessarily in a bad way, but Canadians are more likely to just hold everything in and let it stew. Or apologize.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of, well, I guess Americans would be confrontational about some things, but, well.
12. Canadians pretend Canada has no problems. America pretends the US just has quirks.
Well, I don't know what that means, but, well, I know what it means, but I don't know if I'd go that far. Maybe Canadians don't have problems with that. I think Americans, all you need to do is watch, if you watch some of the political shows, I think Americans tend to create their own problems and then complain about them.
11. Canadians don't get to experience the joys of Pandora and Spotify due to licensing restrictions. 10.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Well, I don't use either one, so.
10. Although Canadians do feel quite a bit of connection with their province/city, Americans identify much more with their state than they do with the country.
And that happened during when people do, one of the things Americans tend to do is tend to rewrite history. If you look at the Civil War, they take down the statues of Robert E. Lee. But during the Civil War, most Americans tended to think more about their state than they did about the country. Robert E. Lee thought he was associated with Virginia more than the United States as a whole. And then you see this in pockets of the United States where when I was growing up, they had these bumper stickers, the South will rise again, this and that, the other thing. And like that picture right there is Texas, the greatest country in the world. Texas is, if you're in Texas, just like if you're in California. And even though they're part of the United States, they're two completely different, two different philosophies, run two completely different ways.
As a whole, except for Quebec, Canada's Texas.
And I've been up there to Quebec, in Montreal, Quebec, and again, it's compared to most of Canada. I've been up to Toronto. I've been across the just that little part of Niagara Falls, also the western part of in BC of Canada. But Montreal felt like a foreign country. They spoke French there, and it felt a little bit different than the rest of Canada that I've been to.
9. Canadians talk about the War of 1812 a lot. Americans aren't quite sure what that is.
Now, I know what the War of 1812 was about. I mean, I believe the White House was burned down, and I think the only battle the U.S. won in the War of 1812 was after the war was over in New Orleans. Okay, but the War of 1812 is kind of like, when people talk about wars in the United States, if they know the major wars, they go Revolutionary, then they go right to the Civil, then the World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, maybe Desert Storm, and so forth. But they forget about the War of 1812.
Boston Tea Party, anyone? 8. Canadians are more passive-aggressive.
Boston Tea Party, that was for the Revolutionary War, not the War of 1812. But maybe you know something I don't. Okay, if I'm wrong, let me know.
A good example of this would be tribalism and all of its derivatives. While it's more overt in the U.S., that doesn't mean it's any less in Canada. It just comes out in a more backhanded fashion. 7.
Okay.
Canadians brag about how cold it is, while Americans brag about how warm it is. Unless you live in Minnesota, then you're basically Canadian.
I live in Ohio, and it gets cold, pretty darn cold here. And New York, if you go in the Northeast, up in Maine, and in the United States, if you live down in Florida, you can say how warm it is, but it gets cold down there sometimes too.
6. Americans are much
But again, it's certainly not as cold as Canada.
more polarized on almost everything. But then again, there are more people in just California than all of Canada, so it makes sense that Canadians would be more unified.
Yeah, I can see that.
5. In the US, talking about American politics is taboo.
Yeah, one of the things my father told me at an early age, he said the two things in life you don't discuss in a public forum are politics and religion. And that certainly should be true today, because if I started talking politics and I said something that you don't agree with, then it could turn into a complete, bloodbath. Maybe not physical, but certainly verbal. And it's gotten to the point that that's one of the things I've always said about Twitter. The best thing about Twitter is it gives everybody a voice. The worst thing about Twitter is it gives everybody a voice. Because if you say something like, Donald Trump did a good job as president, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of people. In fact, I didn't say Donald Trump was a good president or anything like that, but I remember complimenting him on something that he did I thought was pretty good. And all of a sudden, I had a friend of mine who I knew from work was sending me tweets like, that I'm a disgusting individual. How can I think like that? And that I should be ashamed of myself. I'm just talking about one thing that he did. I'm not talking about him in general. But that's what happens. So, yeah.
But in Canada, talking about American politics is a national pastime.
Well, I mean, if you're going to talk about another country's politics, that's different. Okay, I guess if I went up to Canada and started talking about American politics as an American, I probably would gather quite an audience. But in the United States, you want to avoid that, where at least with people that can overhear what you're saying.
4. Canadians are more likely to take off their shoes in the house. Of course, this depends on location, but in many parts of the US, walking with shoes in the house is acceptable. Maybe it's the cowboy influence.
I don't know if it's a cowboy influence, but look, I have my shoes on and walking in the house. If I go up to my sister's place, she lives 2 hours from me, and I go to her place, I have to take my shoes off in the house. So it really just depends on the people and on the individual, because I've been to a lot of places where you've been required in the United States to take your shoes off. Just not the case in my place, and my parents didn't have that rule either.
3. Canadians think Canada is completely different from the US. Americans, on the other hand, don't notice much of a difference between the two countries.
When I've been up to Canada, I could tell it's a different country. I knew I was in a different country. I knew there were different things going on there. But it really isn't. There's a lot of similarities, too. I could probably do a full video on what I witnessed or what I saw. Look, one of the things that a lot of America, where I live, is when you think about Canada, we think about Tim Hortons. And what a good place Tim Hortons is, and thank you for having Tim Hortons in Ohio. But no, I guess I can. Again, if you're from Canada, let me know. But
as a note, from a European perspective, any differences will seem a bit overstated. 2. Americans have it easier when it comes to shopping online. In Canada, many stores don't offer online shopping, and many of them don't even have a website to begin with. 1.
I work for. I won't tell you who I work. I will not tell you who I work for. But there's a. If you buy in the United States what we sell, it's at a certain price, like in probably the $20 to $30 price range. But if it's paid for and you live in Canada and being mailed to Canada, it immediately goes to the $60 price range.
1. Canada has 2 official languages on a national level, English and French. Americans have no official language on a national level. Each state decides whether or not to adopt English as an official language.
And that's something I've known, but there's a lot of people who are bilingual in the United States, especially in the South, in the Texas area, Arizona, California, because there's a lot of because of Mexican influence out there. They're bilingual. They speak English and Spanish, and they do also in other parts of the country too. I don't want to say wrong. I mean, I remember telling a friend of mine who was going to New York City. This was back in 1985, 86, whatever it was. I said, buy an English, a dictionary just for all different languages. They're not everybody speaks English there in New York City. And he thought I was making it up. And when he got back, he goes, "You were 100% correct. Not everybody spoke English." I said, "Yeah, that's true." Now, in most places in the Midwest, in fact, majority of the country, they speak English. But yeah,
Tristan, we should go to Canada one day.
I'd love to.
Let's do it. You want to go now?
Sure.
We got some hockey to watch. Actually, by the time this video comes out, I think the Stanley Cup playoffs will be over.
I don't like hockey anyways.
Go Preds! What? No,
go Preds. I guess he's Nashville.
we're gonna go watch hockey. Let's go to hockey.
Well, go to. I have a hockey NHL team in my town too. Blue Jackets.
What a terrible, terrible outro.
I feel like we keep saying that every week.
Okay, they're still talking.
Enjoying our lists? Be sure.
Okay, yeah. 25 funny differences between Canadians and Americans. Please click like, share, and subscribe for him, and please click like, share, and subscribe for me. I found this interesting and fascinating. Hopefully, you did too. My Canadian friends up there, I really enjoy your country. I learned some things here today I did not know. But if there's other things you want to say, maybe I got some things wrong, please let me know in the comments below. But thanks very much for watching. And again, please click like, share, and subscribe, and have a good rest of your day.